Welcome to Documentary Reel, where we uncover the stories hidden in the shadows of history. Today, we venture into one of the most hazardous places on our planet, a place where a mere 300 seconds of exposure could mean a certain end. This is the story of the elephant's foot, the most dangerous object on Earth, nestled deep within the ruins of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. On April 26, 1986, the world witnessed a catastrophe of unprecedented scale. During the late-night safety test, a sudden and catastrophic power surge ripped through reactor number 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Soviet Ukraine. A series of devastating explosions blew the 2,000-ton lid clean off the reactor core, releasing a plume of radioactive material that would poison the skies of Europe for weeks. The initial blast and subsequent fire were just the beginning of a nightmare that was far from over. The core itself, a cauldron of nuclear fuel and control rods, had begun to melt. This was a meltdown, the most feared event in nuclear power. The temperatures inside the shattered reactor soared to over 2,000 degrees Celsius, turning nuclear fuel, concrete, and steel into a scorching, radioactive lava. This incandescent mass, known as corium, began a slow, inexorable journey downwards, melting through everything in its path. It was a terrifying, man-made magma, and its destination was unknown. Soviet authorities scrambled to contain a disaster they could barely comprehend. A heroic and tragic effort, known as the liquidation, was initiated. Firefighters, soldiers, miners, and engineers, hundreds of thousands of people known as liquidators, were sent into the radioactive heart of the disaster zone. They worked against the clock, battling an invisible enemy that was silently destroying their bodies. Their primary mission was to prevent an even greater catastrophe. There was a terrifying possibility that the molten corium could burn through the reactor floor and come into contact with the large pools of water in the bubbler pools below. Such an event would have triggered a secondary steam explosion of unimaginable power, one that scientists estimated could have rendered much of Europe uninhabitable for centuries. It was a race against time and a battle against the very laws of physics. Miners were called in from across the Soviet Union to dig a tunnel beneath the burning reactor. Their task was to create a space for a heat exchanger to be installed, a desperate attempt to cool the molten core from below and prevent it from reaching the water. They worked in extreme heat and crushing radiation levels, a testament to human sacrifice in the face of an apocalyptic threat. Their efforts, combined with those of the firefighters who drained the bubbler pools, averted the secondary explosion. But the corium continued its journey. It oozed through pipes and seeped through concrete fissures, eventually coming to rest deep in the bowels of the power plant, in a steam distribution corridor directly beneath the reactor vessel. There, in the darkness of room 217, it cooled and solidified into a bizarre, elephantine mass. When it was discovered months after the disaster, its wrinkled, grayish appearance reminded observers of the foot of a giant elephant. The name stuck. The elephant's foot was born, a monument to the terrifying power of a nuclear meltdown. When first discovered, its radioactivity was off the charts. The radiation fields near the mass were so intense that they would deliver a fatal dose in less than a minute. Getting close for just 30 seconds would cause dizziness and fatigue that would last for a week. 2 minutes of exposure would cause your cells to begin to hemorrhage. 4 minutes meant vomiting, diarrhea, and fever. And at 5 minutes, 300 seconds, you would have only 2 days to live. The radiation was so powerful it even affected camera equipment. Early photographs of the elephant's foot are grainy and distorted, the film itself being damaged by the intense gamma rays emanating from the object. This solid mass is a mixture of uranium dioxide from the nuclear fuel, its zirconium cladding, molten concrete, and serpentinite, a type of rock used as a radiation shield in the reactor. It's a unique, horrifying substance created in the crucible of a nuclear hell. Initially, the mass weighed an estimated 11 tons and was dense as lead. Its temperature was still so high that it was a significant heat source, even months after the initial meltdown. Scientists and liquidators took immense risks to study it. Using remote-controlled equipment and, in some desperate cases, quick, daring dashes into the room, they took samples to understand its composition and behavior. These studies were crucial. Understanding the nature of corium was vital for predicting its long-term stability and for planning the future containment of the entire Chernobyl site. What they found was both fascinating and deeply unsettling. The corium was not a uniform substance. It was a complex, heterogeneous material with different layers and compositions, reflecting its chaotic formation as it melted through various materials in the reactor building. Over the years, the elephant's foot has changed. The intense radioactivity continues to cause its own molecular structure to break down, a process known as self-irradiation. The once hard, glass-like surface has become brittle and cracked. It is slowly turning to dust, a radioactive dust that poses a new and insidious threat of inhalation. The radiation levels have decreased significantly since 1986, but to call it safe would be a grave mistake. Even today, spending an hour in its presence would still be lethal. The elephant's foot remains one of the most concentrated masses of radioactive material on the planet, a silent and deadly sentinel in Chernobyl's basement. It is a stark physical reminder of what happens when humanity loses control of the atom. Containing this threat has been a monumental undertaking. The first sarcophagus, the object shelter, was hastily constructed in just 206 days after the accident. It was an incredible feat of engineering, built under the most hostile conditions imaginable. However, it was never intended to be a permanent solution. It was a temporary shield, built to entomb the destroyed reactor and contain the radioactive dust. Over the decades, it began to degrade, raising fears of a potential collapse. This led to the construction of the new safe confinement, an architectural marvel and the largest land-based movable structure ever built. This colossal arch was slid over the old sarcophagus in 2016. Its purpose is to safely enclose the remains of reactor number 4 for the next 100 years, allowing for the eventual deconstruction of the unstable old shelter and the careful management of the radioactive materials within, including the elephant's foot. The future of the elephant's foot is a slow, centuries-long decay. It will remain dangerously radioactive for tens of thousands of years, a toxic legacy for countless generations to come. It is a symbol of both human error and human heroism. It represents the catastrophic failure that led to the disaster, but also the immense courage of those who fought to contain it, often paying the ultimate price. The 300 seconds that could kill you in its presence are a chilling measure of its power. The elephant's foot is more than just a lump of radioactive material, it is a profound and terrifying lesson written in the language of nuclear physics, a warning from the past about the awesome and destructive forces we have learned to unleash. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Chernobyl. If you found this documentary insightful, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. Stay curious with Documentary Reel.